Hi from me, Lauren Jaffe, and welcome to another episode of Derech Eretz. Providing a safe space for those in need when you're able is so important, especially when it comes to children. Tamara Davidson tells us about her life and volunteering at Aranja, the Jewish Child and Youth Care Center. And Genevieve Butkov explains the importance of being a safety parent. Rabbi Liebenberg tells us more.
Sometimes it happens that a couple is not blessed with a child. And yet there is the precept in the Bible of pru revu, that one must be fruitful and multiply and have children. In fact, this is the very first commandment that's given in the Bible. So what is a couple to do if they can't have children of their own? The Talmud tells us, Hamagadol yatim betoch beito, that one who raises an orphan child in their home, ke'ilu yaldo, it's as if one gave birth to that child. Looking after another person, providing for their needs and their safety, and educating them is tantamount to giving birth to them. And it's considered as if that is your child. And an excellent example of this is in the book of Exodus, when we meet Moses. Moses was born at a very difficult time. The Pharaoh had made an announcement that any Hebrew boys would be killed upon birth. And the mother of Moses, Yocheved, was pregnant, and of course she was very worried. And when she gave birth, she hid her son away in a cupboard for a few months. We don't know yet what the name of this child was. According to our tradition, his name was Tuvia, which means the good one of the Lord. And then once he was already a little bit older and she couldn't hide him, obviously he was crying, she made a little boat for him, a little crib, a waterproof one, and she put it in the River Nile, and it floated down the River Nile. And Moses' sister walked along the banks of the River Nile to see what would happen. And it happened that on that particular day, the daughter of Pharaoh was bathing. Her name was Batya. And she saw there was a little ark, a little basket, and she knew that this was a Hebrew child that had been put there by his mother to save him. But she had pity on the child, and she took that child and raised that child, found a wet nurse, actually happened to be Moses' actual mother, and looked after that child, and it became her son. And what's so fascinating, and I'll say just point this out, is what is the name that we know this young baby as? The greatest prophet in the Bible. What was his name? His name was Moses. That name was not given to him by his birth mother. That name was given to him by Pharaoh's daughter for all time. Why? The sages tell us to show us the power of doing a good deed. That because she saved that child and raised that child, so for all time he is known as that name, Moses. Moses means to take out of, to draw him out of water. And for that, she becomes one of the heroes of the story. Her father was killing all of the children, and yet here she is saving a child that ultimately becomes the redeemer of an entire nation. There is no greater mitzvah, there's no greater precept than to take a child, an abandoned child, into your home and to look after that child, to give it a chance in life. So many children have been abandoned and they have no future, they have no place. To take in such a child is perhaps one of the greatest mitzvahs. You're literally saving a life. And therefore our sages tell us that it's considered as if you gave birth to that child.
Tamara Davidson has been a volunteer for a number of years at the Jewish Child and Youth Center, Aranja. We chat to her about how this has impacted her life and those around her.
I didn't grow up in a Jewish home, but my dad grew up in a Jewish home. His stepmother had been Jewish, so the Jewish community was never too far away from my reality, but I didn't personally grow up Jewish. Because Judaism is something that I actively chose in terms of conversion, I needed it to be a very authentic process. I needed it to be something that I knew I was going to follow through with and that I really, really wanted. So I did the Jews by Choice course at Temple Israel, the progressive Jewish route. And it was something that I found it completely eye-opening. It was, by no stretch of the imagination, was it just open textbook, read, and then regurgitate. I really took on board every single element of Judaism that I was reading about, and my journey's kind of evolved. And since then, I can't believe the path that I've been on. In terms of Jewish values, I love the warmth of the Jewish community. I love the sense of togetherness that there is within the community. I love the philosophy of tzedakah, you know, the giving back of whatever you have to the community. And I also find that the premise of tikkun olam, which is to repair the world around us, is something that I'm able to tie in how I was brought up with the values from my own childhood and then with the Jewish values together. It's just something that really resonates with me. I think for me, a driving force is if I were in the position of being the recipient of any kind of generosity or tzedakah, what would I want? And I think that for me is quite a driving force. I would want someone to do X, Y, Z, so I try and fulfill those roles myself. Aranja is an institution that carries with it such a very, very rich heritage and such a respected heritage. The first time that Aranja was ever spoken about was as the Cape Town Jewish Orphanage in 1910. That is a heritage that not many other NGOs or NPOs could ever boast about. Being 110 years old, the gravitas of that is, and the fact that in the last 100 years, the amount of children that have come through the doors of what was the Cape Town Jewish Orphanage and is now Aranja Jewish Child and Youth Center, the amount of families that have been indirectly affected or directly affected, the ripple effects of the work that Aranja does was something that I was just immediately drawn to. At one point, around 1921, Aranja was actually one of the largest NPOs in Cape Town. It was one of the largest social welfare institutions in Cape Town, and I think that is something to be so proud of. And the fact that we've helped so many children over the years. I mean, at the same time, around that time, in the early 1920s, Isaac Ochberg went to the Ukraine where they were having these terrible pogroms, and he rescued 175 children from the pogroms and brought them to Cape Town, housed them in the Cape Town Jewish Orphanage. And this was all just the brainchild of two Jewish philanthropists in Cape Town. The one was a housewife, and the other was a businessman, and it started with one conversation. They realized that there was a need, and I think that is just incredible. A year later, they'd already found the premises, and the first children were accepted in 1912. This is something that I don't think a lot of people in Cape Town, let alone South Africa, actually understand. During the time of World War I, we were taking in over 100 refugee children from the UK. These were not just Jewish children. These were just children in need, and we opened our doors and allowed them in. And then in the 1960s, when the new Children's Act came in, and we had to change our name formally from the Cape Town Jewish Orphanage to Child and Youth Center, because there weren't just orphans there. There were then children who were part of the foster system and part of the social welfare system. And I think this is truly something to be proud of. We've renovated, we've moved, we've rebranded, we've renamed. We have reinvented ourselves time and time and time again to keep up with the fact that there are always children in need. And I feel that we're almost at the precipice of having to do it again. And I'm personally so excited at this point in time to be involved in that. what's quite nice about Aranja is that we've got a very interactive committee. We've got, it's a very broad range of people, and each of us bring specific strengths to the table. And mine just happens to be that I have a background in advertising, media, communications. So that's kind of the role that I generally fulfill. But I think I'm also a bit of a frustrated creative or artist, so I get to explore that avenue as well. And there's just so much scope. So I do find I'm having to be quite creative all the time in terms of fundraising, in terms of our new branding, in terms of any campaigns that we roll out, and getting the community involved and keeping the community excited about Aranja. So from that perspective, I'm a general dog's body. But we do also, as a committee, get involved with the children. And I love that it's such a holistic kind of way to raise children, and I'm really drawn to that about Aranja specifically, and the fact that I can get involved in all these different avenues of the children's lives. All the children at Aranja are raised in a very Jewish home. We have Shabbat every Friday. Judaism is front and center of every single thing that we do within our home in Aranja. And what I'm quite excited about is the fact that the community gets quite involved in this regard. All of the children have a bar or bat mitzvah when it is their coming of age. We then have a mentorship program that we're wanting to roll out with Rabbi Oshek and Rebbetzin Oshek at Or Sameach, which is another shul in Sea Point in Cape Town. We celebrate all the chagim in the house, which is all the high holidays and all the holidays in between, the Jewish festivals. We've just had the Yom Tovim, which were the high holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and then thereafter straight into Sukkot, and that's when the Jews were traveling through the desert and they were living in these semi-permanent structures. And the children get so excited about Sukkot in particular. So Rabbi Liebenberg and a couple of members of his congregation took it upon themselves to build a semi-permanent, or a proper structure in our garden at Aranja, and we are just thrilled and so grateful. For me, a massive highlight was we did our first charity drive. We were the first Jewish community organization in Cape Town to do an online charity drive, which is a telethon where for 24 hours you man the phone lines and you're really just begging and pleading for money. But we had zero budget. We had very little time to pull it together, and not one of us on the committee had any experience in this regard whatsoever. So we put together this campaign. It was Paint the Town Orange, and it was the most incredible thing that I've ever personally been a part of. And I could not believe it. Within 6 hours, we had raised 3 million rand. That is what we're going to be using to open our daycare center as soon as we do eventually find the right piece of property. And so that's something I'm incredibly proud of. It really did change the landscape of fundraising within the Jewish community. Now, charity events happen quite regularly in telethons and whatever, but the fact that we were the first, I think it pulled at the heartstrings. It was real, and it's something that I'm incredibly proud of. I think that we all have a deep obligation to raise our children together. There's that old saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and I think in this specific instance, that is very, very true. It will take our entire community to raise all of these children together to make sure that we empower them, we educate them, and we allow all of them going forward to be unplugged from Jewish welfare. I think that first and foremost for me is the goal. I don't want to raise a generation of children that are, that they want to keep their hands out and they feel that they're owed something. I want these children to feel that they can go forward and they've been given every opportunity in life to succeed and to flourish and to blossom and thrive. And that is why I just feel we need to band together, we need to raise these children together, and we need to give them every opportunity that we possibly can. My Derech Eretz, I think that if you just show up, that's half the battle won. And I think if we all just show up for each other, we show up for the people who have less, we show up for our friends, we show up for our family, That's a really beautiful thing. I think giving someone your time, your energy, as opposed to just giving money, putting money in an envelope or making an EFT, which is always fabulous, but I think giving someone the gift of your time is the most valuable thing that you can give. And I would hope that that would be kind of my Derech Eretz in a nutshell.
Cape Town-based Genevieve Budkov is the name behind Little Hands Baby Home, a place of safety for abandoned babies to find love, nurture, and good food before their next chapter in life. We find out what the Little Hands Baby Home journey has been like for all involved.
My professional career, I was a night nurse. So being a night nurse, I've always cared for babies, and then when the pandemic hit, obviously I had to stop working. So I've always thought there was something missing while working that career. And then when I started volunteering for the baby home, that thing that was missing kind of filled. So that basically led me to wanting to help more. And so I just decided, you know what will be better for me is I can actually help a child in need because I have the space in my own home. And so caring for the babies now, it's kind of make me whole. A temporary safe care parent is where you will care for a child or a baby for the period of 3 months to 6 months. Anyone can apply for this. Adoption agencies work closely with temporary safe care parents who actually care for the babies before they are adopted. And this would be the quickest way to actually become a temporary safe care parent and to start caring for children as quickly as possible. Between a safety parent and a foster parent, there really is not much difference. So they basically have the same duty to the child, to care for the child temporarily until the child can be placed with their family again. Reunification is what it's called, or if they can be placed with an adoptive family. The only difference is that temporary safe care is for 3 months, so you have a child or a baby for a period of 3 months, and then foster care is for a period of 2 years and more. The main reason why I opened up my place of safety, Little Hands Baby Home, is because there is a need. So we need more temporary safe care parents. We need foster parents. There's such a great need for this type of care for children because the alternative is they are put into children homes, and these children homes are already completely at their maximum capacity and there's just no space. So any children that come after the fact, they're just squeezed into a place where there is no resources for the child to go. But if you can just support one child or one baby, that will make such a huge difference to that child's life, more so than you would think. Being involved in a Jewish youth movement, I learned to kind of take things as I go. So being a part of the youth movement, we run the youth movement, and so we have to learn as we go, as we become older. So in my life, I have adapted the same thought process. So I have to learn as I go. So opening this place of safety, opening Little Hands Baby Home, it's not something I know, right off the bat. I don't know everything. I don't know all the answers right away. Yes, I know how to care for the babies, but running a place of safety is completely new to me. So it's kind of laid the ground for everything that I'm doing now, because now I just know, what I need to do next, because that's what we learned as going to the youth movement. It's been crazy, incredible. So many people have supported, so many people that are just, random people supporting us from different walks of life, and you get to know different people that just want to help out as much as they can. And I thought, I might struggle because I don't have funding yet, and we've just now opened as an NPO, but I've never struggled in that sense. Every time I needed something, somebody would always just happen to stop at the door and drop off exactly what we needed that week. So it's been really incredible just seeing how people can just rally together. When a baby arrives, it's very exciting. So that's the most exciting moment. You just don't even think about where that baby's been or anything like that. You just think, I've got this beautiful, precious baby that's just arrived. It's like you're a new mom all over again. And then when a baby leaves, it's kind of the opposite in a way. So you're not really thinking about yourself and how you're feeling. You're more thinking, how is this baby going to adjust? Because all they've known is you and your care. So it's kind of bittersweet at the end. But, we just hope the best for the babies. The babies that I care for, they don't have anyone. So what I do for them is I fill a need for the child, for the babies, until they can find their forever home, and then their family that they end up with can then provide that need for them. So normally our day looks very much the same as every other day. Wake up, do some nappies, bottles, back to sleep, and then they'll sleep for a couple of hours and then wake up for lunch, have a bit of a play, and then back to sleep, and then wake up again for dinner, some more nappies, changing bottles, and then back to sleep for bedtime. My Derech Eretz is figuring out as I go. I mean, with babies, working with kids, you can't plan anything. So my goal is just to give my life so that whatever that child that comes to me needs, they can have that at that time.
Well, we've come to the end of the show for this week's episode of Derech Eretz. As always, we'd love to hear from you, so please send us a Facebook message at Spirit Sister Productions. From me, Lauren Jaffe, and the Derech Eretz team, have a beautiful week.